What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. I am Tony Mango, your host, including the other two people that are on this podcast. I've got Callum Wiggins.
Good time of day to you.
And Robert D. Felice.
Yes, that is I.
Good days, times of days, good days. It's 9:53 p.m. where I am right now. So good evening for everybody in that same time zone.
Yeah.
And hopefully you guys are all having a good day wherever you are, whenever you're listening to this. Maybe it's like 2048 and you're listening to it, in which case go back in time and tell me that. But that's a stupid thing to say. What we're going to do here is we're going to break down the events that just transpired. It was NXT TakeOver WarGames 3, or NXT TakeOver WarGames 2019, or NXT TakeOver Chicago 3, or, any other kind of names that you want to call it. But it was WarGames, according to William Regal, and lots of fun things to talk about. Some things to nitpick, which I'm sure are going to get under a lot of people's skin. But that's what we do here. We talk about the good, the bad, and everything else in between. And we invite you to do the same thing by leaving comments in the YouTube video description below or on the pages on Smark Out Moment. So if you are on the audio-only platforms like iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify or Google Play, then leave a star rating for the podcast in general and hop on over to YouTube. While you're over there, like the video, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done that already, ring that little bell for the notifications, and as I just said, leave your comments below and tell us what your thoughts are for everything that's going down here. So, first things first, I want to ask you guys about the kickoff. We had a 6:30 start time, and normally what they do here is they usually have a half an hour ahead of time for these takeover events, and it's usually pretty much like Charlie Caruso, Pat McAfee, and Sam Roberts running down the card and saying a couple things. And they kicked this off with the announcement that Mia Yim was attacked backstage. What was going on through your minds when you were watching this?
As soon as I saw that Mia Yim was attacked, my immediate thought was, oh, Dakota Kai's getting in the match and she's turning on her teammates. Which is, spoiler alert, exactly what happened, but that was immediately what the thought was.
Rob, what about you? What were you thinking?
I was thinking, wow, the surprises don't end this weekend with the team reveals, because lots of shakeups with that. But I also immediately thought, okay, Dakota Kai wanted in this match. She took out Mia Yim. I didn't expect her to immediately do what she did, but stranger things have happened.
I actually was thinking that they weren't going to pick Dakota Kai, that they were going to go with Toni Storm. And then later on, Dakota Kai would come out and be like, my God, you still didn't freaking pick me? That kind of thing. But the fact they did this was an interesting way to start things off. And then they got into the whole, let's talk about the card and all that. I had a note down here that says, I'm a fan of Sam Roberts being a dickhole. He had thrown out the idea Dakota Kai is a bottom of the barrel pick, and the crowd's all like, oh, come on, asshole. And I like that. I like when he gets the crowd hot.
Yeah, he's very, very unlikable.
Such a backhanded compliment. You're great at being somebody that we don't like.
Well, the great thing about it is that he doesn't have to try hard, because he just comes across as a very unlikable personality in general. Like the sort of guy that you would feel partially bad about beating up at school, but then feel like you're doing it for the greater good.
Yeah, bullies, take that into account. If it's for the greater good, beat up that little twerp.
Some people just ask for it. It's like...
I like that. No, I thought that was really fun. They had a match for the first time ever. Well, not for the first time ever. It's never had a match in NXT. For the first time on the pre-show TakeOver event. And it was Angel Garza defeating Isaiah Swerve Scott. Not an official, number one contenders match for the Cruiserweight title, but, I mean, it's kind of like a de facto of that. These two are pretty much the two preeminent people in that division right now, other than Lio Rush, and they had a good match. I'm, not too over-the-top crazy about it, but I liked it. Thumbs up.
Yeah, it was a good match. I felt that some of the spots were a bit reckless. Like the whether it's that like flipping Hurricane Rana that Scott did to the outside, where he basically landed on his head on the floor going out because he didn't connect with it properly, and that springboard powerbomb thing, which seemed to just lose itself mid-flow, and that Death Valley driver on the apron. I kind of saw that and thought, wow, if either of the WarGames matches do anything that's that reckless, we're in for a bit of a crazy show. And turns out they did do stuff that was even more crazy than that. But I feel like it was a good match, but I feel like it was a little bit much. Like I never would want to criticize too many people for like trying too hard in a situation that doesn't call for it. But it's the kickoff show to a takeover, and I think they probably worked harder than they needed to.
Yeah, I thought it was a good match. Angel Garza is a star. I think the world of Isaiah Scott. So if NXT stays with the Cruiserweights, I think these two are going to be the cornerstones of that, along with Lio Rush.
Speaking of which, they released a video on the NXT Twitter profile just recently about how when Angel Garza got backstage after winning the match, Lio Rush confronted him and slapped him across the face and was taken away by production crew. So it's very, very obvious that we're going to have another match for the Cruiserweight title between those two.
I mean, I like their chemistry together. I'm not the biggest fan of rematches over and over the place, but sometimes a rematch is just like, all right, cool. I'm like, oh, I'll watch it again. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, it's the worst thing ever, something like that, for two people that are good in the ring to fight each other. That's a good little continuity thing, having him slap him like that.
I appreciate it because even though I don't want to see like constant rematches, at least the first match was just all about the title. And then during the match with Angel Garza going to basically do his trouser rip-off routine in front of Lio Rush's wife, it's made it personal. So the next one should be a bit more heated and confrontational about it, as opposed to just being for the championship.
Do you think that, we're looking ahead a little bit, do you think that it would be smart if they put the title on Angel Garza?
It seems a little early to take the title off Lio Rush, but I think Angel Garza has a lot more potential.
How about you, Rob? You leaning one way or the other with that?
Nah, I like it. I think, like I said, good matches. They tore the house down on NXT. And as long as 205 Live guys are getting pushes, then, I'm good with it.
That'll depend. They didn't get a TV show this week. That's a shame, but it's true. They were like, it's more important for DX to do some stuff afterward. We're not going to do 205 Live. We had this thing at the end of this, the end of the pre-show, the beginning of the show itself. Pat McAfee just kind of like went into major hype mode, and I liked it. At first, I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" But something about it felt very, I don't know if like the right word for it is youthful, but like energetic and kind of different. I liked that quite a bit.
He was playing the hype man. And that's something that Pat McAfee is very good at doing because he's just endlessly enthusiastic. So he just gets the crowd excited about the show. He bigs up Chicago. He gets the crowd to chant NXT along with him. Yeah, it's just a fun little way to get the crowd a little bit more amped up before the show kicks off. So I'm totally fine with him doing that. It's a great role for him.
There's so much more genuine than what a lot of the other things are. Like, I buy more into the idea that he was just kind of like, oh my God, this is going to be fucking awesome, guys. Isn't it going to be great? Rather than like Tom Phillips or somebody being like, we got so much in store for you. Here's the line that WWE wants me to say to tell you that it's going to be great.
Absolutely. He comes across as someone who's a genuine fan and genuinely excited to be part of NXT.
Agreed.
So we started things off very, very strong here.
Well, before we get there, I want to break in and say Team NXT for the women at Survivor Series is Rhea, Candice, Io, Bianca, and Toni Storm.
Huh. Hey, run that down again for me real quick. That's Rhea
and Candice, Io and Bianca, and Toni Storm.
That kind of shitty for Mia Yim. She didn't get to participate in either of these. I mean,
Well,
it,
that's
it
so
makes
injury.
sense. Like, they have to do the whole injury thing, but it's still kind of like, that sucks, you know? She's probably really excited to be looking forward to doing some stuff like that. And then, you know what, though? I mean, maybe this isn't necessarily the case, but maybe she kind of got a little bit on the injured side with that whole
That
ladder
ladder
match.
match.
She
Yeah.
did. She did break her nose, apparently.
Yeah, so maybe they're kind of like, look, this sucks. You were a big part of this, and you really should have been able to participate, but let's
mean,
play it a little bit,
it didn't stop her from wrestling 2 nights after the show in a 8-woman tag on SmackDown.
Maybe they caught some concussion. I don't want to speculate.
I think it's just an angle. She might be banged up, but most people are banged up. But it's not. She arguably deserves better, but sometimes creative and storyline reasons overstep the idea of somebody needing to be part of a match or not. She'll get it back. I mean, she's clearly going to go into a feud with Dakota Kai off the back of this down the line, and she'll get other opportunities, I'm sure.
Fair enough.
So we started the night off with, I think, the best thing of the entire night, and it kind of went downhill from there. And there's going to be parts of this where I'm going to talk about some negatives throughout this card and stuff, and I'm just going to preface everything with saying, to each their own with their opinions, everybody. If I am not loving absolutely everything on a card, doesn't mean that I'm like, oh, there's nothing that'll ever please Tony, because this women's WarGames match is already on my list for potential match of the year. I loved damn near every single second about this. I've got a lot of different notes. I'm going to run down a couple of the different things here, not every single thing, but I was a big fan of how they started off with Candice LeRae and Io Shirai. I thought that was some good continuity to show off their feud a little bit more, because that sort of fell by the wayside a little bit, and it's wrapped up into this, and it was just a means to be like, all right, remember how these two are still sort of kind of feuding? Let's start off with them. They had a great thing there going with, Candice is the one that's in the underdog spot, so when Bianca Belair comes in, she's the one that's getting this beat down. She's the sympathetic baby face. She's the little scrapper that really is going to put up a fight against two people, but damn it, she can't pull it off because it's fucking Bianca Belair and Io Shirai. And man, one of the best parts of this whole night, Rhea Ripley comes out. Massive pop. This crowd buys Rhea Ripley as NXT's Becky Lynch. And that's before she even got the weapons. And I gotta want to talk a little bit about that before we even move on. How fucking good did they position Rhea Ripley here?
Oh, that's a star-making push if I've ever seen one.
Triple H, I was watching his post-show Q&A on Facebook, just put Rhea Ripley over as though she was like the second coming of Shawn Michaels or even himself. He is over the moon with what she can do. He thinks she's a consummate professional. There is something about her. She oozes charisma. She's 23 years old, by the way. That must be a magic number in wrestling right now, because I could say the same for somebody like an MJF and an Austin Theory, where these people just ooze charisma, and Rhea Ripley's a fucking star. Period.
I don't think I appreciated how big a star that she could potentially be when she first won the NXT UK women's title.
I would agree.
Obviously I thought that she'd be a big monster heel to go forward, but now she's in a babyface position and she's an absolute badass. And she's being positioned in the babyface role, like you say, similar to a Becky Lynch, where she just gives absolutely no fucks and will just take on anybody at any time for any reason. And this match was her star-making effort. This is establishing Rhea Ripley is the woman in NXT now, and all she needs is the belt to prove it. She
and Keith Lee, in particular, are two people that I was very surprised about for this whole build throughout Survivor Series, even leading up to this event, not even counting what happens at WarGames. But those two more than almost anybody, even on like the Raw and SmackDown rosters, I felt came out of this looking like, wow, okay, their stock just went up a lot from what they had going in. Rhea Ripley at first, I was just like, why are they making her like the team captain against this whole thing? That's kind of strange. And by the end of this, I'm like, all right, fuck, Rhea Ripley is like going to main event so many pay-per-views going forward. And like you said, she's 23. It's like, that's absurd. It's great. But that's even before she got the weapons. Now she starts getting out the weapons. She gets chairs and she gets kendo sticks because those are always under the ring for some reason. And trash cans. And the crowd's going nuts and all that. And a little bit salty when they're like, we won tables, and she doesn't get them.
Which is perfect.
Which sets up a perfect thing where Kaylee Ray comes out, teases getting the table, and puts it back, and they're like, fuck you, you know? And I'm like, that's the best thing Kaylee Ray's ever done.
No, I wrote in my notes, like in capital letters, she's a fucking heel. That's so perfect.
Uh-huh.
And then Undisputed Era later in this, like, just come out and put out like 6 tables. Like, wow, you guys are so not heels. You guys just like want to be cool.
You're like, 1 tables? All right, here's like a dozen of them. There you go.
Yeah.
We gave you your tables. Oh my god, my head! I just went through one of them. Bianca Belair does a 450. That was great. Io Shirai at one point she drops does a moonsault off the top of the cage. They've got this handcuff thing going on with Rhea Ripley, and she locks that into to Shayna Baszler. That stuff is going to get lost in the shuffle a little bit because after the Kaylee Ray stuff, the next big thing that happens is Dakota Kai turns heel. And she attacks Tegan Nox, and she targets her leg. So obviously she's got a history of leg problems, both of her legs at this point, which is unfortunate. And there's a part of me that's like, I saw that all coming because of the way that they did that. But then there's an even bigger part of me that's like, I don't care if I saw that coming. That's like, they did the work to set it up. And it's a little bit illogical that she would help out Shayna Baszler's team. But we're in a, pro wrestling doesn't follow the logic of that as much. They tend to go more for emotions. And I'm sure we're going to hear some kind of promo from her, and it's going to be more about, you were overlooking me and whatever, as opposed to it being like that she was helping out Shayna Baszler's team.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. Like, that's cool. And attacking Tegan Nox is a perfect person to attack for it, because that's her former best friend, and that unfortunately dissolves Team Kick from being in the discussion of future tag title situation, but what's more important here, you know? So how you feeling about Dakota Kai's whole situation? I'm thumbs up about it.
It was one of the coolest, not shocking in terms of it was predictable, but shocking in terms of the nature of it, the ferocity of the heel turn, and she kept going for the knee, and Regal pulls her off, and she pushes Regal, and the place blows. And I think she swore at one point because something she said got the 7-second delay, but I thought it was so good. And moving further from that, the amount of stories this show was able to tell between the pre-show, the first part of the match, this heel turn, and then everything that happened after. It was just like pro wrestling done so perfectly.
This is the most praise I can give to this heel turn is it's as effective as Tommaso Ciampa's heel turn on Johnny Gargano.
Fair.
And I don't know obviously it's what happens next that will be the big deciding factor of how effective this ends up proving to be. But as an opening act, I can't think of many that are much better than this. Like Rob says, it's the ferocity of the attack. Even though I was expecting this to happen based on what happened with Mia Yim, obviously it's pretty clear that Kai took her out, took her spot, and then used the opportunity to attack Nox. But I didn't get the impression that this was to help Shayna Baszler's team in any way, because otherwise she probably would have stormed the ring and made it 5-on-2.
Mm.
She only wanted to just prove that she wasn't she wanted to show that she'd been overlooked. Nox didn't come to go to bat for her to make sure that she'd be part of the team when even though that she was her tag team partner, and so she just beat the crap out of her, tore off the leg brace, smashed the cage door against it repeatedly. It was so brutal, so effective, and Kai becomes the most interesting heel on the women's side of things in NXT right now.
And it makes sense that she would attack Mia Yim as well to take her out of the match, because she was the one that was the last picked. So she was the one that was picked over Dakota Kai. Very rare instance of following logic there. It's almost as if the people that were writing this way, it's like, the people that built this match, from the wrestling side of things, the performers themselves who had their input, to the producers or the writers or whoever it is, anybody who is involved in crafting this segment deserves a massive pat on the back. One of those Big Show slaps on the back, because this was so well done. And even the ending of it, you got 4-on-2. I'm already writing up, all right, Team Baszler wins, whatever like that. And Rhea Ripley, again, fucking megastar here, she hooks in the handcuffs, picks up Shayna Baszler for the riptide, does that on top of chairs, and gets the pin over the champion. So she is very much well set up that she is the next #1 contender. And I'm assuming that that's either going to happen on NXT television at some point over the next couple of months, or they're going to try to stretch it out a little bit up until NXT TakeOver Portland, which is February 16th, taking the place of Fastlane. And, the scrappy underdog Candice LeRae, she lasts throughout the whole thing, so that makes her look really good. For anybody who would say that it would make the Baszler team look bad, I didn't get that impression at all. I think that everybody came out of this looking better. If anybody was kind of on the underwhelming side, it'd probably be Belair, because she has done crazier things before. By no means is this a match where it's like, all right, well, she's looking bad. I thought this was very, very good. I believe on my star rating for Bleacher Report, I gave it a 4.5 or something like that. I was just like, this is great. Can't say enough praise about it.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't want to get it, because obviously there were so many great things that happened in the match. I don't want to get lost in the shuffle how awesome Io Shirai was in this match. I thought as soon as Io came out, she obviously this match was about building Rhea Ripley, but Io Shirai just oozes star power. She came out, she was cheered over Candice LeRae, because she has got so much charisma and energy and effectiveness in her heel character. Basically everything that she did got a huge pop. The massive moonsault off the top of the cage onto everyone. I think even though Ripley came out of this being the star that was being formed out of this match, I still would say Io Shirai was head and shoulders MVP of this match.
I think Rhea Ripley, and the win especially, just solidified that she is not only is she the next challenger, but she's going to be the next face of the division, and she's going to take it to that next level. The four horsewomen got it one place. Shayna took it to a new evolution after Asuka left. And now it's Rhea Ripley's turn, and Rhea Ripley's going to fucking own this division, and I can't wait to see it.
So, let's give our predictions right now. Does Rhea Ripley beat Shayna Baszler for that championship, and if so, when?
They would be stupid not to put this on an episode of NXT.
Yeah,
utterly stupid.
She's beating her before the end of the year, because Baszler can go into the Rumble.
I mean, they're proving this with these how the crowd reacts to her. She can be box office, essentially. And why would you waste that on a network show? I know it's the idea of now we're talking about how TakeOver doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter. If you're trying to win a quote-unquote wrestling war against AEW and get higher ratings, then you need to put on matches that people want to see. And people will want to see on TV Rhea Ripley win the championship.
I'm kind of leaning towards the idea that unless tomorrow night has some kind of Ronda Rousey surprise, then Shayna Baszler wins that Royal Rumble and fights Becky Lynch at WrestleMania, and she has to drop that title beforehand to be able to do that. We're not getting TakeOver before the Royal Rumble. And waiting until February to do Ripley and Baszler seems like a long stretch to me. So now I'm kind of thinking, all right, 2-3 weeks from now, maybe not even that long, but it's probably not going to be next week. Rhea Ripley wins that title on NXT TV, and
Yeah,
I'd be very shocked if something other than that happens.
yeah. Within the next month, she'll be women's champion,
Maybe.
and I would predict that the first person that, well, maybe not the first person that challenges her, but maybe the one that's the takeover that's next to WrestleMania could probably be Dakota Kai.
The Portland one?
No, the one after that. Because I imagine she'll probably have a match with someone just being built up while Dakota Kai's feuding with Tegan Nox.
If I had to guess, I'd say NXT TakeOver Portland. It's Ripley and Candice for the belt, and then it's Ripley Dakota in Tampa.
See, I'm not leaning that much into the Dakota thing. I think that Dakota's going to be the one for Portland. Because that is a couple months away. And I think that they can do the Tegan Nox thing over the course of those next couple of months and make that, like, Dakota is the first to get sacrificed.
Well, I think Dakota's got... I mean, she's got to go through both Mia Yim and Tegan Nox in that time frame because she's clearly got ready-made feud to both of them. And realistically, she's got a ready-made feud with Candice LeRae as well because she did screw her out of this. Well, she didn't end up screwing her but she could have ended up screwing her out of this match as well. So I'd imagine she would have feuds with all three of those before she got to Rhea Ripley.
I guess we're going to find out. Of course, we have to have this whole, like, she has to win the title first for that to happen.
Yeah.
They could just do that kind of crap where they've done it in the past where, like, Baszler will drop the title by relinquishing it, and then Rhea Ripley would be the very obvious person who would win it, and they just wouldn't have her actually beat Baszler. I don't think they're going to do that, but they could.
If that ended up happening, I would be utterly convinced that WWE is in the business of not making new stars. They don't care about... Well, they're completely... like in the business of just making sure people are all on the same level.
Well, they've shown a precedent for it. They did it with the Viking Raiders and Street Profits. They did it with Ember Moon and Asuka.
I would argue they didn't do it with Ember.
No, Ember lost it.
Oh, so. They didn't. They did it with Ember in terms of she didn't beat Asuka. Yeah. But here's the kicker: all those are baby faces.
Yeah,
that's true.
And I would also say that those were mistakes. And I think the Viking Raiders one is the most egregious one. But I think with Asuka, at least Asuka was injured. So there was at least some level of excuse to have her relinquish the title.
And undefeated, and I think they wanted to carry that over.
Yeah. But yeah, it's still they I don't think they'd be stupid enough to not have Ripley defeat Baszler for the title. And if Baszler, like you say, wins the Royal Rumble after that and goes to challenge WrestleMania, then it won't affect her anyway to have lost it.
I like it though. I like the fact that not even being funny or Wednesday Night War or anything like that, but this women's division is far and away anything that the main roster has or AEW has. It's one of the funnest things to watch throughout all of wrestling.
Any other thoughts we have about this whole thing before we move on?
No, it's just great. I think we've heaped enough praise on it. To be fair, maybe we haven't heaped enough praise on it, but we've only got so long to do so. Talk about basically every moment in it, but it was like from start to finish an exceptional match.
So this is where people will be like, how are you going to crap on something that's good or whatever like that? The triple threat between Pete Dunne, Killian Dain, and Damian Priest. There's something that stood out to me about this that really got under my skin. I think we all can acknowledge Pete Dunne's had better matches, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was impressed by Damian Priest. I liked that he brought back the Razor's Edge. I thought that he was surprisingly agile, and he showed off power game and everything like that. I was a fan of him. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
He did a good job.
How disappointing was Killian Dain?
I didn't think he was.
No, I thought he was good.
I felt like there was this massive oversight where he wasn't booked as the big man and he had nothing to do. I don't remember him doing a damn thing that was worthwhile in this match.
Let me see. Where's my list? So he hit a Michinoku Driver and Dunne at the same time as sitting on the face of Damian Priest. He hit a suicide dive on Priest before hitting a cannonball through a barricade. He did a
Oh, it's nothing impressive. People do. Everybody does a suicide dive now, and bigger guys like Ivar do it. That's nothing.
But the point is, you're holding him to a different standard. I think it was impressive. He's as good as any big man in the business today.
I feel like as a big man, he's underwhelming. As a big man who's agile, there's like 3 or 4 better people that can do that kind of stuff. And as the agility type stuff, everybody who is more agile is able to do it better. And he's kind of like, he's not playing the big man thing, but he's not able to do the lighter stuff to a level that he can match with the other people. Yet he's not actually even like Keith Lee, where I'm like, wow, he did that? Like, that's crazy. It's like, oh, well, Keith Lee does it better. Ivar does it better.
Okay, I'm in the situation now that I'm happy if the comments actually call you out on this, because this is nitpicking to the highest degree. Yeah, you're being really
you're just being a little salty.
Hypercritical right now.
I thought that this match was fine, and it's not my least favorite match of the card, but I was just like, well, crap, Dain really kind of was. I feel like it would have been a better match if Dain wasn't in it, actually.
Well, okay, let's talk about this. The idea that every single match is going to blow your mind is one of the issues in the work rate era. Every match can't blow your mind because eventually something is going to fall flat because you just had your damn mind blown. You do understand, we're all in agreement that women's WarGames match is a match of the year candidate, right?
But my criticism isn't that this needed to be as good as that, because this wasn't, I mean, the match that follows this, Riddle and Balor, was worse than this match. Like, this match was good. It was fine. It wasn't amazing.
But I don't think they can all be amazing.
It doesn't have to be amazing. And I'm me saying that it's good doesn't mean that I'm saying that it's crap. I'm saying that it was fine. Like, if this would have been the first match of the night, I still would have had the same issue with Killian Dain. That's my big criticism, is I feel like Dain was misplaced.
You might just be sour on Dain because of, like, you've seen him on the main roster, you know it didn't go anywhere.
I've seen him wrestle a couple times on NXT, and I wasn't impressed with any of his NXT work yet.
Yeah, it might be a thing of you don't like Dain.
It might be, and if that's the case, then I guess if this was the best he had to offer, I'm going to be like, all right, well, maybe at AEW he would be a more impressive thing because there's not as many people his size. But in WWE, I'm like, all right, I'd rather have Keith Lee, I'd rather have Kevin Owens, I'd rather have Ivar. I'm feeling like Dain already hit his peak, and it wasn't even really like a mid-carder level. I mean, obviously, he's more than a mid-carder in NXT. He's not going to be like jobbed out tomorrow to ever rise or something. But for a guy that could have potentially been like, Big Damo when he first came in, it was like, oh, dude, this could be like another huge star. And I'm like, I don't see it anymore. Now, Damian Priest, I wasn't really impressed with him in here.
I think he's great.
Yeah, Priest has got a lot of talent about him. Like, the issue with Priest is the shelf life, essentially, because I think he's very close to 40 at this point. He got into wrestling quite early, but he was kind of mired in just the independent scene for far too long, and then he stuck with Ring of Honor for a while. It took him a while to get to a position where he can be in WWE, and so he's got to make use of the time that he has left, but he's definitely got a lot of agility about him for a big guy. He blends the power game and like these massive dives over the top of the turnbuckle very well. So yeah, there's still a lot of potential with him. And Dunne, again, it's not Dunne's greatest match, but Dunne's worst match is better than a lot of people's best match. So,
yes.
So I definitely didn't have any issue with that regard. My issue with this match was that it was too long. And I know that there's the issue with the fact that there was only 4 matches on this card, but by the end, the kickouts were getting a little silly, and the breakups. I think by the end of it, you could actually hear people exhale disappointedly when people were breaking up pinfalls.
Yeah, one of my notes was it went on too long.
Yeah, I don't think this match is any better. Would probably have been better 5 minutes shorter. And arguably, maybe the match we're going to talk about next would have been better if it had more time to build up to it. So maybe there was just a little bit wrong-footed with what time they devoted to which part. But again, I'm not going to overly criticize a match that I thought was, on the whole, very good. So definitely not as good as the previous match, but I doubt that anything we talk about going forward will be as good as that. But that was it was still a good match, and the right person won.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
I
I
mean,
think
go ahead.
Dain Dunne versus Cole is gonna maybe steal the show in Chicago tomorrow night.
Depending on how banged up Adam Cole is.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, if you think that this went on too long, but you don't think that our podcasts go on too long and you want more, then hit up the Patreon and you should toss a buck our way. Or if you want us to do things in particular that we haven't done yet, or you want us to focus on something that we don't get around to doing, there's the Pick Your Poison tier. If you donate towards that, then you can actually pick something that you would want us to do, some kind of a feature gimmick of some kind, and then we'll get around to doing it the way that we've done some of the other things in the past. Not only applies to Smark Out Moment, but also to Fanboys Anonymous. I'll talk about that a little bit later on, but pay attention to the Patreon and donate if you got the spare change. Yeah, I feel like the WarGames match, the women's WarGames match, phenomenal. The triple threat match, pretty good. Not the best thing in the world, not bad, all that other kind of stuff. I have my issues with Dain, but I think it was just like, all right, well, if that would have gone on first, I think it was cut a little bit shorter, I think the perception of that would have been a little bit off, even though I probably still would have had my issues with Dain. But unfortunately, Finn Balor versus Matt Riddle, I just overall didn't like the match. It wasn't awful. It's not the type of thing that if you check my star ratings on Bleacher Report, I didn't give it a 0 or something like that. I'm not going that crazy. But the main note that I wrote down here is they made a choice. I didn't like it, which was, I guess they think that Finn Balor can't be Finn Balor if he's a heel and he should wrestle a different style, and I don't like this style. I thought this was slow, boring. Instead of coming off as like a heel, to me, Balor came off more like somebody going through the motions, like he didn't want to do it. I think the 1916 DDT finisher is lame. I just didn't like this.
I thought it was underwhelming, but I like Balor's more methodical style if he's going to be a heel. He doesn't need to be doing explosive offense. It's going to make the audience pop for him because it's like we were saying with LeRae. I want him to be a fucking heel, you know? Like, this is good for him as a heel.
I think, again, I agree with you guys that I was underwhelmed with this match because I expected something more dynamic between these two. I think part of the issue is the fact that they probably never wrestled before in any capacity, and some people just don't have instant chemistry like certain other people have had in the past, like AJ Styles and John Cena, for instance. Like, some people just don't hit it off immediately. But other than that, it just felt a bit like two guys doing moves on each other. And
I think Riddle was the wrong pick, too, because I think Riddle, he's in a position where he doesn't need a big-time loss, and he had to eat one here and also make Finn Balor look really good in the process. Maybe if, I know, like, Tyler Breeze as an opponent would be underwhelming, but maybe if they could have gotten somebody who could eat the loss, maybe it would have been better.
I mean, we all know that this wasn't the game plan to begin with. It was Johnny Gargano.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing.
And I'm still looking forward to that. I'm not like writing off Finn Balor as being like, well, he sucks now and he's never going to wrestle a good match again. But I will have to call back to something that happened from the very start of Balor in NXT. When he first came into NXT, I remember everybody going absolutely apeshit. And I was like, I'm not feeling it. And since Balor's been in WWE for the past bunch of years, I've always felt that he's been a little bit overrated. He's not by any means bad. Never going to say that he's like some bad wrestler, because he isn't. But I do feel like there's a little bit more hype for Finn Balor than what he actually delivers, for me at the very least, especially the whole demon thing. That pisses me off more than anything. But I feel like I'm like, crap, here's a situation where I was looking forward to seeing what he would do as a heel and to switch his game up a little bit and kind of do something to prove me wrong, I guess. To be like, all right, well, as a babyface, I'm not absolutely loving it, but maybe as a heel, he's going to be, that's where his true shining talents are. And then 5 minutes into this match, I'm like, can we fucking move on? Like, I get it. You don't really want to be doing this or something right now. Like, you seem like you're going through the motions and you're bored, and you're making me bored. And Riddle seemed like he was trying. I mean, he wrestles the way that he wrestles, and sometimes it's great and sometimes, whatever. But like, I don't know. I felt so just blah about this.
Yeah, I can't say it was a bad match because it wasn't a bad match. It was still good. And I think given some more matches between the two of them where they can build up some chemistry on live events or house shows, then maybe they'll develop something a little bit stronger, and Balor will hone in on a style which is can be a bit more not sort of energetic, but a bit more active and still be in the heel role. I think he might be, I don't want to say trying a little too hard in that regard, but I don't think that you need to be a Randy Orton headlock guy to be an effective heel in 2019. And there was a spot where he had Riddle in a headlock for about 2 minutes, and I was like, okay, if this is what Balor thinks being a heel is about, then he needs to think something different.
I'm glad you brought up the Randy Orton thing, because I was going to do the same thing, because a lot of people criticize Randy Orton for that, and they're totally within the realm of that they should. Like, I mean, Randy Orton does sometimes have that issue, and that's what I was kind of seeing here, where I was just like, but I don't like my heels to be acting in a way that they're like, we know that this is not real. Like, for that matter, I don't like the baby faces doing that really either, but I don't like wrestling to be like, okay, the way we're going to get heat is by annoying you and not wrestling.
But you can be a heel by being overly aggressive, or by like teasing that you're going to do something like super exciting and then doing something that's a little bit just more basic. Like teasing that he's going to dive off to do the coup de grace, and he actually just like drops off and then just stomps on the guy's ankle or something like that. It's like, you play to the crowd a little bit more. Whereas Balor was just a little bit, like you say, maybe a bit pedestrian. I think there's still some good moments. Like I love the fact that Riddle mocks the Goldberg stuff. I find that they need to do a match between him and Goldberg, because there's just too much in it right now of him doing the spear and the jackhammer. And I love the best thing about it is that he will always hit that jackhammer, and that guy will always get his shoulder up at two, because he's not beaten anyone with that jackhammer.
I think he hasn't he?
Nope.
No, I don't think he's beaten anyone with a jackhammer.
I thought he beat somebody on NXT recently.
Nope. They always kick out.
Yeah, it's always the either the Bro Derek or the Bro Mission to get the victory. I love the fact that he hit the it's all every one of his moves has bro in it. It's like hit the bro to sleep, and the crowd started chanting for CM Punk, because of course they did. They're in Chicago. What were you expecting to happen if you hit that move? And even though the 1916 isn't the greatest finishing move of all time, I appreciate the fact that he has another finishing move, because I will die on this hill if I have to. Everyone should have multiple finishing moves. You need to establish multiple ways for people to beat guys. Otherwise, you're just waiting for that one move to hit, and everything else in the match is completely circumstantial.
Do you guys remember? I'm looking at this because I kind of thought that he won some match. Do you remember offhand? He's beaten He beat Ricochet by that quick pin. He beat Cameron Grimes and he beat Bronson Reed over the past little bit of time. And he beat Killian Dain in the street fight. I kind of feel like maybe that's how he beat Grimes, wasn't it? Or
No.
Bronson Reed? It's bugging me now.
I doubt he'd been able to hit the jackhammer on Bronson Reed or Killian Dain. The only one that he probably could do it on is Cameron Grimes, but I imagine he probably just won that with the Bro Derek.
If you know, by any chance, I could be dead wrong about it, but if anybody does know, drop a comment below. Let me know. Just because it's bugging me.
Well, Hunter is currently talking about Riddle and Goldberg, and he simply said, ask Goldberg. I don't know if he has any interest in wanting to do it, but Matt seems to keep doing the spear and the jackhammer.
At some point, they're going to do it.
I doubt it.
I think that it's going to get to the point where Goldberg's just kind of like, I'm going to prove that whatever. And then they're going to do the whole, like, you know, Rock and Cena were like bitching at each other. And then they grow to respect each other. And, you know, maybe not. Who knows? But I'm very disappointed with the Biller.
Me too.
Biller and Rowler. The Balor and the Riddle thing. I know this isn't what we were supposed to be getting, and they obviously had to change their game plan up a little bit like that. And for the record, they went with a game plan that seemed like it could have worked. I just feel like this falls on Balor, and he needs to figure out another way to do the heel act. Balor won, by the way, if anybody wants to know. Any other thoughts on this?
No.
No, just give them... See if they can develop a bit more chemistry, see if Balor can become a bit more engaging as a heel going forward.
So before we move on to the main event, let me get out another couple of little plugs. I mentioned donating some spare change our way in the Patreon method, but I didn't mention the merchandise shops. TeePublic and Redbubble are the shops where I've got for Fanboys Anonymous, for A Mango Tees, and for Smark Out Moment. And as always, if you have any design ideas that you'd like to see me at least attempt to put up, then toss them my way as well. You know, maybe pick up something for a Christmas gift or something stupid like that. I don't know.
Yeah, get your significant other some Happy Days shower curtains.
Or a small package T-shirt that points down at your crotch. You know, there's a variety of different options there.
Send a not-so-subtle message to your significant other.
They just added a couple more things, and I'm going through trying to add them all because you have to go in for each individual design and click on a whole bunch of things. But like Redbubble, for instance, they added like water bottles now, and they like tote bag type things and stuff. A lot of that makes no sense to me, but you know, people buy things at random, and who knows? And if it's not something up on there and you'd be interested in it, then let me know about that, and I'll do my best to kind of make sure that it's up. But those are all happening all over those 6 different websites, so check that out if you are interested. And I will also just quickly throw out what fanboysanonymous.com is. It's a website you should go check out. Now, it's my geek culture website where I do movie reviews and talk about anything on the non-wrestling side of stuff, like if I do ever want to talk about video games, or if I want to talk about TV or comics or the superhero genre or anything like that, that's where you're going to find it. So eventually, like in a couple weeks, when the new Star Wars movie comes out, you'll hear a review of me probably being like, oh my god, they didn't do this the way that they should have done it, whatever. Haven't seen The Mandalorian yet. I know a couple of people have asked. Haven't seen it, but Baby Yoda is fucking adorable. So that's positive.
Go watch it right now after the podcast.
I'm still behind on like Titans and stuff too. Which, man, I saw that there's Nightwing coming. It got me excited. But let's go to the main event here. The men's WarGames match. It was the Undisputed Era against Team Tommaso Ciampa, which also included Keith Lee, Dominik Dijakovic, and Vacant. And Vacant was eventually filled with a Casey Jones mask.
Very cool.
No, obviously, it was not that. But what did you guys think about the Casey Jones looking mask? I thought it was pretty cool.
I like it for Ciampa.
Better than when Kane had something very similar.
Yeah, that's a low bar to try and overcome, but yeah, it's a nice just adds a little bit of special flair to the entrance attire.
So most of this match, I felt, was kind of waiting for the mystery partner. Now, that's not to say that what happened during the match was bad or anything like that, because I enjoyed the action that was happening throughout the whole thing. But I feel like that was kind of the lingering question, was just, all right, well, who's going to be the mystery partner? And it ended up being Kevin Owens. I know you guys disagree with me on this, and I'm sure that a lot of other people do as well. And that's, perfectly, not going to say that that's a wrong opinion, especially because it's an opinion. But
Can I say what you're about to say is a wrong opinion?
Here's my defense on this. I do feel underwhelmed about the Kevin Owens thing, and I can say that with the parallel of saying Kevin Owens is one of my favorite people on this roster, has been from the very start of NXT. I recently, when we did our expert picks and stuff on Bleacher Report, and one of the questions posed was, if you could pick anybody from any of the rosters, pick your 5 that you would pick for a Survivor Series team, Kevin Owens was on it for me. Massive fan of him, can't say enough positive stuff, but I do feel like the big surprise was a little underwhelming that it was just Kevin Owens, because on the logic side of things, yes, the Undisputed Era attacked Kevin Owens, and it makes sense that he would want to get a little bit of vengeance. But I can also write that off and say everybody attacked everybody throughout this whole week, and we don't see Ricochet saying, fuck you, Matt Riddle, I'm going to go into a deep feud with you because we were in a match, or, the fact that the people that came out for Team NXT for SmackDown for the women weren't the people that they ended up going with. There's a lot of things that it's just they got swept under the rug, and I feel like the Kevin Owens thing is not so above and beyond all the other ones that it was like, well, you gotta follow that up. And I do feel a little disappointed that it's just like, again, I love Kevin Owens, but it was just like, oh, just Kevin Owens? Okay. Well, I like Kevin Owens, but I am kind of like,
At no point was it a foregone conclusion that this person would be Kevin Owens. I don't know how you could be underwhelmed with it. It was greatly logical, so logical to the point where they even bothered to say on Raw commentary that Undisputed Era was reprimanded by Triple H for attacking Kevin Owens, but that they didn't care because they play by their own rules. Kevin didn't necessarily say no to Hunter either. Maybe Kevin wants to go to NXT. The only issue I have with this is it throws a wrinkle into tomorrow's 5-on-5-on-5 match, which, by the way, confirmed by Triple H, the 5 men will be announced by Shawn Michaels during the kickoff panel tomorrow.
And I will say also that in retrospect, I might look back on this and say that I like this more if they do something where he screws Team Raw. But if he full on just is like, oh, I'm 100% full Team Raw and screw the NXT people and all that, I'm going to be like, well, then why the hell did he get, like, it's just kind of the moment of him like hugging it out with Tommaso Ciampa at the end of it, it's sort of like, well, you're blurring the lines a little bit here now, and the whole brand warfare being something that matters, because why is he in NXT now just to get back at a couple people in NXT, and he's bros with the other ones, and that's where some of the logic crumbles to me too. But again, for anybody who wants to say like I don't like anything, Kevin Owens is fucking awesome. So you add Kevin Owens to the match, and it's like, all right, that's a lot better than throwing in somebody that I wouldn't have liked,
I think in terms of the level of surprise, it's not the most surprising pick they could have made, but maybe it was actually, because you can only work with what you got. Realistically, this wasn't the match they had in mind, because they originally had Matt Riddle in this match and they had Johnny Gargano facing Finn Balor. So if things had gone according to the plan, then they would have needed a surprise opponent in this match. And then you can't just say, oh, why wasn't it John Morrison? Well, because they may not have signed John Morrison. We don't actually know that. Why wasn't it someone else that they had?
Anybody who thought that it could have been CM Punk, that's kind of not fair to WWE.
Yeah.
Everybody's been saying that he's not signed for anything and he might not ever be signed. So, but then again, that's another argument too, is when WWE sets up an idea of you should get hyped and you should start speculating, there is a sort of level of responsibility of being like, and any other kind of analogy. If I were to give you a Christmas present or a birthday present or something like that, and it's this huge box, and I'm like, oh man, you're gonna love this. This is awesome. This is you can't even acknowledge how great this is going to be. This is going to blow your mind and all that other kind of stuff. And it ends up being something that's like, if I would have regularly just been like, oh, here you go, here's a gift, and you would have been like, oh, it's pretty cool. Then it is kind of like, oh wait, it's just, oh, okay, well, thank you, it's awesome, but crap, I thought you were giving me a car, and inside of this big box it was a gift card. You know what I mean? Like that's where it kind of crumbles for me, where I'm like, yeah, I didn't think it was going to be CM Punk, but I did think that they did so much to build this up as like this big mystery person, that I feel like the Kevin Owens thing was kind of like, maybe if that would have just announced Kevin Owens ahead of time, then I would have been like, oh, cool, Kevin Owens is going to be a part of the team. Like, if they would have done that on NXT, I don't think that would have bugged me as much.
Well, regarding the CM Punk thing, Hunter was immediately asked,
Of course.
was immediately asked the question of, was it ever considered to be CM Punk? Have you spoken to Punk? He said, no, I have not spoken to him. As of now, there are no plans for him to do anything with us, even at the Performance Center, because I haven't spoken to him. But he did say he didn't want people to think it would be, and he even told Sam Roberts during the pre-show over the headset, do not say that the person is here in Chicago, because people will start to think it's Punk.
I think, I guess the proof of whether it was right to keep it as a surprise at the end is in the reaction, and the crowd went absolutely batshit crazy for Owens coming out. They clearly, even whether they thought that was an option or not, they clearly were excited enough by it that it doesn't matter either way. And you're always going to have those certain people that are out there saying, oh, they didn't bring back Kurt Angle from the year 2003 to be in this match instead. It's like, oh, they didn't resurrect Bruno Sammartino in his prime or whatever, and he's not competing in this match. It's like, what exactly do you expect them to do? They can only really work with what they got, and I think with the options available to them, this was the best possible choice. And
it probably was. That's another thing to acknowledge. Looking at, like, people were saying, well, maybe it's Johnny Gargano. If that was the case, he would have wrestled Finn Balor.
Yeah. If it was like people saying it's Velveteen Dream, but he's injured. Like he can't just heal himself overnight or whatever.
Just because they could use a Velveteen Dream doesn't mean that Velveteen Dream could step back in the ring and do that. And there's nobody else in NXT. Like, we went through this whole process twice before, multiple times. So the idea of saying, like, who could it be? And we looked at the rosters for both that main roster of NXT and even NXT UK. And we were all just kind of sitting there going, well, there's really not anybody. Because if you throw in, like, Cameron Grimes, that's going to be like, well, what? Why? You know? So it is probably the best possible option. But I feel like the flaw here is not the fact that it's Kevin Owens. It's the fact that they waited until the end of this match on the card itself for it to be Kevin Owens. I think if Owens would have popped up on NXT this week as a part of the Team Raw thing, and they would have kind of manipulated the way that they did that, and then he would have been standing side by side with Lee, Dijakovic, and Ciampa, and fighting with the Undisputed Era, and then they would have been like, oh my god, we just found our fourth person. Heading into this, we know that it's Kevin Owens. I think I would have been a little bit more receptive to it.
How much
Go ahead.
I was going to say, how much can we read into the fact that Kevin Owens was wearing his original NXT shirt?
Funny enough, I didn't notice.
Well, it wasn't even the new, when he was established in NXT Kevin Owens shirt. It was the original one that he said that he put together essentially with a piece of just a few pieces of tape, making a KO on the front of his shirt and an NXT logo on the back of it. It was basically a carbon copy of his original NXT shirt.
Probably a cool moment for him, like a callback for him. The thing is, I don't know. I won't know until tomorrow.
You know, his entrance music his entrance video is back to his original NXT one as well.
Oh well, that's just awesome. Those are cool, subtle details.
Yeah, the one where he's in the ring, just moving around and stuff like that. It was basically just seemed like it was reset, and he was back to just being, this is 2014 2014 when he first pops up.
That's right.
yeah, so we don't know how much we're going to read into it. If anything, at least I hope they at least acknowledge it on Survivor Series, but it could be an instance where he's backstage with the Raw team and the Raw team are kind of looking at him and saying, "Can we trust you?" And then whether it does or it doesn't, at least there's some sort of inkling that Kevin Owens kind of still has loyalty to NXT, and that might hamper his performance in the match or whatever. As long as they allude to it, then I'm kind of okay with whatever happens. If they just ignore it, then
them to.
Well, if they just ignore it, then it's just a case of it's just again the typical situation of they don't really care what makes logical sense or what happened on the NXT show, as long as Vince gets what he wants on Survivor Series.
For that matter, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow night. We don't even know who's going to be a part of Team NXT. But again, predictions, why not? And we still have more to talk about with this WarGames match, but just as far as the Owens situation goes and stuff, I don't expect him to turn on with Team Raw. And I would assume that Team NXT is probably the same sort of group that we were talking about before, where knowing now who is on Team NXT for the women, which is Ripley and LeRae on the one side of the WarGames match, Bianca and Io on the other side of that, and then Toni Storm as part of NXT UK, I kind of lean more towards the idea that it's going to be maybe not necessarily Ciampa, Lee, Riddle, Dijak, and a fifth. I kind of think that maybe they're going to take Dijak out and maybe have Ciampa, Lee, Riddle, and then maybe two heels or something like that. I don't know.
So knowing what I know now and knowing who's in Chicago, Ciampa, Lee, Riddle, Walter, and maybe Dijak, but I wouldn't even. There's nothing concrete there. I think Walter's definitely on the team because otherwise you did not need to fly him into Chicago.
Balor is another one. They could just put Balor in there.
Yeah. I don't think Owens will be on the NXT team. I do think that there is at least room to suggest that he'll either cost Raw or he'll find himself in a situation where he's about to fight the NXT people and he gets hesitant about it, and that's how he gets eliminated. I think there could be at least some storyline potential in him being conflicting in his loyalties to being on the main roster or going back to NXT, and that could play out in some kind of discussion where he needs to try and find himself for a little bit, and that could either propel him up the ranks on Raw, or he goes back to NXT and he's an instant main eventer.
Do you guys think he's going to go back to NXT?
Yeah,
I would hope so.
I don't.
Triple H flat out said he wouldn't say if Kevin had a future in NXT, but he did say Kevin, like Balor, wants to be here.
I'm sure that a lot of people are well, things were better off in NXT and I can work with a lot of other people. And it's, to be honest, it's an easier schedule too. So I'm sure that there's at least a portion of Kevin Owens that's I'd like to go back down, but I kind of feel like they're not going to let him. That is, of course, unless there is plans for somebody like a John Morrison, because maybe if he does come in, maybe they put him on Raw and they move Owens away and he kind of fills in that gap a little bit or something. They could do that.
I just don't see the point of him being on Raw and just being a guy who everyone kind of realizes how good Kevin Owens is, but they know that for whatever reason he'll never be given his due, to going back to NXT and instantly being top of the card, top babyface, battling out for the NXT Championship within a couple of months, and being a draw that could take eyes potentially away from AEW. I think in all circumstances, him going to NXT is the best scenario for everyone. But, he could just end up going back to Raw and just being in purgatory, as he's always been pretty much for the last couple of years.
There is an argument to be made, though, that if he goes to NXT, then he's taken a spot from somebody who could work up.
Well, then move them up. Move someone else up to replace him. It's why would if he's not happy if he would be happier in NXT, and you're not going to give him a top spot on Raw or SmackDown. If they are planning to give him like a main event run and make him world champion soon, then fair enough, keep him on Raw or wherever he's going to end up being. But if you've got no plans of doing it, why not utilize him as a top star in another brand that does have like national television as well, that is directly competing with your main competitor in the US? Like,
there's positives, yeah. I mean, there's.
Well, it's the only logical solution, and that's why WWE won't do it.
I'm not fully convinced that they won't. I'll just say, not holding my breath either.
So, let's talk about the rest of the match, because most of this has been talk about Owens, but I don't want to lose something like, for instance, the finish.
Fucking hell!
What? I have to commend the fact that this was as good a table spot as you can get. 2 tables set up side by side. Both men went crashing through both tables perfectly. Like you couldn't program this in a game to go perfectly like that. This was flawless. Scary as fuck, but flawless.
I think, well, first of all, no one can ever say that AEW does too scary shit in their matches ever again after that Moxley and Kenny Omega thing, because I would argue that this one spot was scarier than anything that happened in that Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley match. And Rob's right, it went flawlessly, but it had to go flawlessly, because if it didn't go flawlessly, someone could have died. And I don't want to over-exaggerate that point. I think if Ciampa doesn't hold on to it correctly, or he slips slightly, or they don't land perfectly on both tables, the risk of serious injury or anything worse than that is ridiculously high. And I don't want to see anyone do a spot like that ever again. They landed perfectly on the table. Those tables exploded. So basically any give that a table would give you from landing just didn't happen. Cole just went straight through on his back. It's utterly reckless. It's cool visual. Obviously, it's cool visual, but it's terrifying. Especially the guy performing the move has just come off major neck surgery,
where he was having trouble with sensitivity in his hands.
And he was holding up Adam Cole. Like, Adam Cole's not the biggest guy in the world, but a grown man when he's on a surgically repaired knee as well. Don't do this stuff. It's too, like, you get one great moment out of it, but is it worth risking 2 people's health and well-being?
And then they showed Britt Baker ringside, and they actually acknowledged her as Adam Cole's girlfriend, Britt Baker.
Do you think that was Ronaldo going in for himself?
Would you like me to tell you what Triple H had to say about that?
Yes.
The director had no idea who she was. He just went straight for the person with the most believable reaction.
Really?
He said, I don't have a problem putting her on. I just feel bad that I might have put her in a compromising position.
I would assume that all parties would just be like, this is fine. I can't imagine AEW being like, we need to punish you.
AEW probably
for
loves it because everybody just went and said, oh my god, they just showed AEW's Britt Baker on TakeOver. This is the second time they've done that.
Yeah, at least he didn't go that far. He said, oh my, there's Britt Baker there, AEW's, AEW Women's Star. Like, you check her out on Wednesday nights against NXT. Like, you could have gone a lot further, but
the most important thing to say is that she's a dentist.
I would have to say that the difference between this and the women's match is that I thought the women's match told a story in a match, whereas this felt just a spot fest. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely time and place for a good spot fest, but this didn't seem to have a real story and flow or I would say purpose to it in the same way that the women's match did. And that's why the women's match is better in my eyes.
I think this match was really cursed because of the lineup being so topsy-turvy. there wasn't, outside of like Ciampa and Cole, there wasn't this feeling of animosity and volatility among the people. So I think that hurt it.
I just feel like overall the action wasn't as good. And that's not to say it's bad. Again, of course, this is my second favorite match of the night. But as much as I rank this number 2, and for that matter, I rank the triple threat is number 3, the kickoff is number 4, and Balor Riddle is the dead last one, it's still a distant, far number 2 compared to the women's WarGames match. That was above and beyond so much better.
Yeah, I still obviously enjoyed the match, and it was, again, there was a lot of great spots to it. Keith Lee was great in this match. Definitely showed a lot of like the mix of power spots as well as doing his athletic side of things. I do like the fact that he used to do the drop down or the leapfrog over them and then hit a drop kick. But obviously AJ Styles does a very similar move. So ever since they moved him onto television, he now does the diving crossbody instead. So just a few little things I noticed, but then just tons of people going through tables towards the end of it. There was that. Oh, this was almost as dangerous as the not almost as dangerous as the final spot, but still seemed pretty dangerous. Was the Panama Sunrise on the steel in between the two? Because the reason why that looks so dangerous is because they didn't do it right first time. Because he tried to go over first time. Something obviously stopped him from doing it, and so he had to take like 3 attempts to actually go over. And by that point, it looked all to me that Owens' head did hit the steel. And if it didn't, then they did a really good job of protecting him. But it just looked like his head just bounced straight off of it.
Well, keep in mind the fact that that's 2 of the hardest edges of the ring with a steel plate connecting the 2. So it's like there's no give there either.
No.
Even if he didn't hit his head on there, if Cole's legs they clearly did. They landed. You can't just not land. They'd be flying up in the air. But like when Cole's legs land, that pressure is still just like hitting it cement. So that had to hurt for both he and Owens' neck and everything on top of that too, even if he didn't land on his neck. So that's kind of like, again, another thing that'd be like, maybe don't do that again.
Well, to mention this as well, it's like Adam Cole, when he gets down to the ring, has to put 6 tables into the ring. Adam Cole has a broken wrist. He's lifting up and setting up 6 tables with a broken wrist.
How long's the wrist been broken for now?
A good couple of months, it feels like, in case of recovery. And he's been working probably more than anybody at this point in time. Like, I don't know, maybe they should invest some healthcare for their independent contractors at some point. But
who's had a broken wrist longer, he or Owen Hart? Remember he did the whole like cast gimmick?
Yes.
I don't remember how long that went on.
That went on. It ended before the end of the year.
Is it who have the cast on longer, him or Bob
Orton?
Yeah, Orton. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, he's still got it on right now.
Yeah.
but
yeah, Adam Cole though, like talk about a like not underutilized or undermanaged or I'm blanking on the word that I'm thinking now, but like this dude does not get enough praise for the fact that he's been killing it as one of the main people on this build to both WarGames and Survivor Series.
Oh yeah, he's been like the absolute workhorse of it, and it's incredible in the fact that you look at the 4 people that are part of Undisputed Era, and you look at Cole and you think, well, he's the promo guy with the other guys being the workers, and yet he's working his ass off at the moment.
And he's doing it injured, and it's just like, a lot of other people, if they were dealing with a lesser injury, probably wouldn't be doing anything at all. And then somebody who has that injury would be like, all right, let me stay out of the ring until TakeOver happens or something. And he's like, all right, let me wrestle a 30-minute match against Daniel Bryan. Let me go ahead and do this spot. Let me go ahead and do this attack spot. Let me go ahead and do this, whatever. Let's travel here. Let's travel there. Adam Cole deserves all of the praise that I'm sure that he's getting backstage from the people who are paying attention to that kind of stuff. And I'm sure that Triple H is one of them. I know that Shawn Michaels is one of them. hopefully Vince McMahon and some other people are as well.
Well, no, because let's not beat around the bush here. You know that as soon as he appeared on either Raw or SmackDown, Vince took one look at him and said, "Okay, so where's the real champion? Where's your real NXT champion? It can't be this guy. This guy is smaller than me." So, like, I fear for all Undisputed Era if they ever get moved up to the main roster, and I desperately hope that they never are, because
I don't think they ever will be until Triple H is running it.
Because they won't get appreciated, because even though we have moved past the idea of it's definitely not just like a land of the giants anymore. With Cole in particular, Vince won't buy him as a main eventer.
No, he'll be at best like an Intercontinental champion.
Yeah, the Undisputed Era will become like maybe obviously mid-card title thing, and they'll become like a tag team predominantly act. So they'll win the tag titles multiple times, whatever. But I just don't see, I don't see him ever being Universal or WWE champion.
According to Hunter, the executives at Fox were immediately impressed with Adam Cole and immediately wanted him. That's what he had to say, I think, on the media call on Wednesday. And Hunter, again, like Ripley, gushes over Adam Cole as though he was the second coming of Shawn. Like, nothing but consummate professional. He's the best. He's up for anything. So I think Cole's got a home for as long as he wants it in NXT and probably in WWE beyond.
I completely agree with basically everything you're saying, and I totally believe that Triple H has total faith in him, and I would probably agree that the Fox executives, if they have looked at Adam Cole and seen stuff, then there will be stuff that he likes. I just don't think it matters when the guy in charge is the guy who's in charge.
He won't be there forever.
No, but will Cole outlive him? Essentially, is probably the real
Cole's
question.
Career outlive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, will Cole in general outlive him? I don't even know if he'll ever.
That's true. I mean, we have talked about the idea that Vince McMahon might pull a Walt Disney and do the whole cryogenically frozen Futurama type cruise. If we start getting like cyborg people at any point, Vince has got enough money that we could get Robo Vince, and then
he'll put his brain in the Fox robot.
And then eventually they'll have a match against RoboCop, and it'll be WCW back in the day, and just kind of, all things come in a circle. Yeah. So WarGames. The last note that I have for this is Alicia Taylor, the announcer. I have not really been paying too much attention to her all that much. She's kind of just like, she's not bad, she's not great. I'm a fan of her as much as it can be, and there's been a lot of horrible announcers in NXT that they've just like, you're a good-looking girl, let's try to see if you're an announcer. Oh, you suck. Well, you'll have that job for 6 months until we get the next one to come in, whatever. But I thought that she did a pretty good job with the whole, like, building up that, like, now it's time for ready for WarGames kind of thing and whatever like that. And I think for the first time, even though we've had WarGames before, and I'm still going to stick to my idea that we've said about Hell in a Cell and TLC and all that I don't like the idea that WarGames is just like, oh, it's November, we're doing WarGames. But I think for the first time, I really kind of realized how awesome that fucking name is of WarGames.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's why people wanted it back for so long, because it's just a cool name for a match.
Yeah, it's a cool name, it's a cool concept. And people just want to pine back for the days of WCW. I mean, look at AEW.
Yeah,
I'm not pining for that. I'm more so looking
are.
forward to the future. Well, Cody is.
Yeah.
Slamboree and Super Brawl may be coming soon.
Yeah,
well, WWE's audience is over 50, so
I don't dislike those names. But
I don't dislike those names either, but I dislike this clamoring for WCW.
Yeah.
Well, I would put it this way: they have the name WarGames. This isn't WarGames. These are not WarGames matches. These are WWE's versions of WarGame matches.
Fair.
Because essentially the crux of WarGames was that they weren't ended by pinfall, or they were ended by somebody giving up.
You had to quit.
Yeah, you had to quit. And there was a roof on the cage, so there was no escape. Whereas these ones are just essentially, for the most part, they've been a bunch of spot fests. I think the women's match is realistically the first WarGames match that told a story from start to finish and did it really well. So, it's just they have the name and they want to do what they want to do with it. I imagine if AEW do bring in a similar concept, whether it is the match beyond or whatever, then it will probably bear more resemblance to the original WarGames.
I hate that name so much.
It's fine.
The match beyond, it's the type of selling that you'd see in like the 1952 World's Fair, where it's like, welcome to the match beyond. Like, it's some.
What did you call it? Beyond Warfare.
I like it a little better, but
what about Modern Warfare? Or does that come into trouble?
No, then you're getting then Activision suing your ass.
What if they're like, welcome to Games of War?
You've heard of Game of Thrones? There's Games of War. Let's go.
Or what if they just like botch the hell out of it?
Yeah.
They go with the game beyond. But looking forward to the idea of future War Games, just as a total random, who knows, because we didn't even know who was going to participate in this year until it happened. Round it out here. War Games happens next year. All these different things could change things, but what would you see potentially being the War Games matches next year? Any random ass guesses? I'd be curious if next year we go back and we're like, oh my god, we thought that was going to happen.
It's predicting a long way into the future, especially we don't even know what's going to be happening with NXT going forward. But I would say Ripley would captain one side of a team, and that could be her. It depends whether she's babyface or heel at that point, but I'll assume that she's still babyface, and say probably her, Toni Storm, maybe like Candice and Tegan Nox against a team led by Dakota Kai. Or Dakota Kai be on the team, maybe it's led by another heel. Like, I can imagine by this time, maybe someone like Chelsea Green has made it onto the main roster, and so's Deonna Purrazzo.
I'd hope for Deonna. She's been just sitting there doing nothing for like 2 years.
Yeah, so maybe those two and Dakota and who would be another good heel. Maybe someone like Bianca Belair could still be in it, because I assume by that point Bianca and Ripley would probably be the main title feud at that point, because Bianca's got to be feuding for the title at some point. And then I would, on the men's side, I would say it's unlikely that Imperium would ever make it to the main roster, so I'd probably do something with them, maybe against British Strong Style and another member of the team for them.
I think Undisputed Era will absolutely be in War Games. They are the four horsemen of NXT. They're always going to be in War Games as long as they're there. Who will go against? Johnny Gargano hasn't been to War Games yet. So nope. So he'll likely do it. Maybe Ciampa. Ciampa doesn't want to go anywhere, so get that DIY action. Maybe by that point, who knows? Maybe Killer Cross is in NXT. And it's like, Killer Cross, DIY, and Keith Lee against the Undisputed Era. That won't happen, but there's my prediction.
Just for the hell of it, since we don't have money on the line, I'm going to say it's NXT versus NXT UK for both matches.
Lazy.
No, I could see them doing something like that, because if they keep this to Survivor Series, maybe they're going to go with the whole, like, well, you didn't really do anything with NXT UK last year. Why don't we do a little mini brand warfare kind of thing with NXT? And I don't know if NXT is going to be in the Survivor Series thing next year. I could see them running into some issues tomorrow night and realizing that they can't do these, like, 5-on-5-on-5 matches. So if they do it instead, and their idea is to be like, Survivor Series is Raw versus SmackDown, War Games is NXT versus NXT UK, that might be their kind of compensation for next year. And then we could get, who the fuck knows? I mean, we could get Eddie Dennis and good old Massive Dave Mastiff and Noam
Sid
Dar
Scala.
and
I think
somebody
Sid
like
Scala should be in the match.
he might,
Who would Ono
So-
wrestle for?
What is that?
He's
Who
the
would
ref.
Cassius Ono wrestle for? 'Cause he's been on NXT UK more recently.
I mean, if you said to me, book it right now, I'd probably put him in a situation where he's kind of the asshole who says that he should wrestle for both and neither side wants him. The kind of thing where it's like, I am the best British wrestler, and they're like, no, you're not. You're not on our team. And then he goes, well, fine, then I'll go back to NXT. And they're like, no, you're not on our team either, buddy. Then again, we got Kona Reeves popping up, so maybe Kona Reeves becomes the next big thing.
Oh, he's terrible.
He is the finest,
No, he's not. He's really not. Like,
So that's, I guess, all we can talk about. Are there any other things that you think we are moving past? I don't think so, right?
As an overarching thing, and I again might be in the minority of this, I thought commentary was terrible on the show.
To be honest, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention.
Yeah.
No, I don't pay a huge amount of attention, but I think Ronaldo was too Ronaldo on this show. Like
he did say something. What did... It was during one of the WarGames matches where he just spouted some pop culture reference that I didn't even remotely get, so it just came across as this weird, obnoxious line, and I was like, all right. I think they just told him on commentary to tone it down too.
I think I know what you're talking about. I can't.
You
I
can't
don't know,
recall it
he
either, right?
He just said something, and then I think he just screamed the same thing over after it. I think it was like reference to some sort of pop culture song that I'm not
That
familiar
you
with.
have no
Whatever.
clue. That's exactly what I'm feeling too.
I think there was one.
I don't know about this, but now I kind of want to try to go back and listen to whatever it was.
I
Do you
think
remember what match?
I think it was in the main event.
It was
But yeah, I think there was one point where he described, I don't know whether it was Dijakovic or someone like that. It was this bizarre just flurry of words that have like 4 or 5 syllables in each one of them coming out, and just like I like Ronaldo, I like his passion, but sometimes he's just a bit much. And like on the complete opposite end is Beth Phoenix, who I wish they would add some kind of personality injection into her at some point, and if she's going to continue doing commentary.
She's funny when she calls the Breezango matches.
Yeah, and she seems to get some sort of enjoyment out of Angel Garza ripping his trousers off. But
yeah, like she's been very good at playing the overly hormonal woman, but which is odd because like nothing in her character time ever displayed that. But that's what she's really good at on commentary.
But yeah, I just wanted to point that out because it's something that like I'm generally familiar with Raw and SmackDown, but I've been less so of NXT, and I just thought that this was an underwhelming performance by them.
Anything else you want to touch on, Rob?
No, I don't think so. I think everything seems good. I'm excited about TakeOver on a Sunday. I'm hoping AEW, whatever the fuck, is not the next or the day before, because that would kill me, but I think it'll be good.
And how are you guys feeling heading into tomorrow night?
I'm excited.
I'm happy that I won't be watching it live. Let's put it that way. I will go back and like watch the bits that I find interesting. It's just after a TakeOver show, I'm always bracing myself for disappointment.
Well, I will be watching it live and doing live coverage. So check that out on smarkoutmoment.com and pay attention to the post show that we're going to be doing afterward as well. Same kind of thing that we're doing here, just for Survivor Series.
It'll be me and Tony instead of me and Tony and Callum.
Unless there's a 3-person thing and we get Barry the elephant back in the room. I don't know.
Yeah, Barry.
Is that the name I went with? I think I went with Barry.
Yeah, it was Barry.
The elephant in the room.
Yeah. So yeah, do what we've said before. Drop your comments below and tell us what your thoughts are for WarGames and any other last-minute predictions for the Survivor Series pay-per-view for tomorrow night. And we'll see you then and all that stuff. But we have to do a couple other little plugs in the meantime before we say goodbye to you. I've done quite a bit of mine. I'm going to come back and talk about some other little things afterward. But first things first, I want to give these guys a chance to toss out some other things. Callum?
The big one for me is 2001: A Wrestling Odyssey. We will be filming or recording, whichever way you want to look at it, the November edition in the next week or so. So that will be covering Survivor Series 2001, so Team WWF versus Team Alliance. We'll also be touching on Rebellion 2001, as well as a look at the tapings they did for the XWF, which was a start promotion that went absolutely nowhere. And then just other news and events. So if you're a fan of retro podcasts, or you want to go back in time to the year that wrestling changed forever, then make sure you listen to that podcast and all the other ones we put forward in the previous months. And then you can read if you're a fan of reading as opposed to listening. I don't know. Some people like to read. Some people. We might need to start transcribing these podcasts for those type of people, but you can check out.
I've gotten requests for that in the past, and I'm just like, no, dude, not at all. I'm not going through that effort.
Well, for that one person, instead, you can read the power rankings as well as all the other weekly articles on smarkmoment.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14.
And for me, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DudeFelice. I will be doing coverage of Survivor Series, but I'll be doing it over at Fightful.com, along with Sean Ross Sapp and Jeremy Lambert. I also do WrestleZone and the WrestleZone Daily 4 days a week. There's some great interviews right now with Rollins, and he calls out CM Punk, tries to get a match for Mania. Go check out WrestleZone.com on all the socials and e-wrestling news. And that's it for me.
So I alluded to this earlier, but there is still more to talk about and more to plug. One of them being the Champsgiving tournament. We are on round 4 right now. Round 5 will start on Tuesday. That'll be the finals. So go ahead and vote while you can on who the best hardcore champion of all time in WWE is. While you can with that, next week when we get done the finals, the week after that, we're going to do the roundup of everything like that. But next week's podcast is going to be the mailbag. So send in those mailbag questions if you haven't done that already. And we are also, in some format, going to talk about Starrcade. We're going to give predictions and then eventually do some kind of a post-show on December 1st when they do that. Still haven't quite decided, of course, if we're going to be doing the Starrcade predictions during the hot tags, or if we're going to lump that into the mailbag, kind of. Like if we have to retroactively just kind of throw in there, like, oh, they changed this match and we're just going to do that.
I think you mean the hot tags, because I don't know if we ever lump anything into the mailbag.
No, I mean, as part of the mailbag. If they end up changing it and somebody tosses a mailbag question out there.
Okay.
But highly unlikely that we're suddenly just going to be like, all right, it's like Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, let's record Starrcade predictions. That's probably not going to happen. But who knows? I don't know. You'll be aware of it if you subscribe to all the different social media accounts. If you follow us on Facebook and Twitter, you subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you check out smarkmoment.com. Eventually, something will come up, or it won't. That's how it'll work. We'll see you with all that. We'll see you with potential dark matches on the Patreon. I'm still kind of working on that a little bit. We'll see how that goes. But for now, that's going to do us in. Tomorrow is going to be the post show for Survivor Series. That'll be the next time you see us. And we can't wait to see you guys there. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.